I tell you this to break your heart, by which I mean only that it break open and never close again to the rest of the world. This is what we call witnessing. Today's blue sticky moment comes from Viral Justice by Dr. Ruha Benjamin. There are a lot of reasons to read this book, one of which is just the raw number of connections to other books that we have cited already on this channel, including these in Lulu Miller's work, Why Fish Don't Exist. Years ago, we talked about the history of eugenics in this society. Dr. Benjamin goes into more details about this. Ours, she says, is a eugenicist society. From the funding of school districts to the triaging of patients, privilege is a euphemism for tyranny. Now, I know that there are people who might find that to be too general a claim, and if that's the case, I would encourage you to check out the work of Dr. Dorothy Roberts, as well as also the work of Dorothy Roberts. There are many examples of how the healthcare system fails Black women, and the healthcare system fails Black women is such a passive way to explain an actual life and death problem. Let's let Dr. Benjamin also, just incidentally, I remember connections like this because it says, see page 21 here. Here is page 21. A lot of liberals spend time critiquing the system, myself included. This can be a useful exercise, but one of the things Dr. Benjamin is pushing my thinking on is the idea that the system isn't a thing independent of all of us and all of our collective individual decisions. Check out this quote. Commenting on the many forms of racism that resurfaced during the pandemic, Imani Perry tweeted, "That white male doctor who strangled and assaulted a Black girl child for not social distancing is also a sign of what African Americans confront in the healthcare system. It's not just structural racism, folks. This was a much-needed punch to my disciplinary gut, as I had been trained to critique the system and systemic inequality, as if these were divorced from everyday human decisions and actions." It can be so easy to despair in the face of what seems to be the abject impossibility of changing the system, but we are part of the system, you and I in it right now, us, this conversation, which is where we get our next connection to Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. On page 9, Benjamin says, in the words of James Baldwin, "We are living in a world in which everybody and everything is interdependent." Close quote. Dr. King also says the same thing when he talks about the fact that we live in an inescapable web of mutuality. They've all been saying this, but we collectively are not hearing it until we hear it from indigenous scientists and philosophers who are teaching us this invaluable lesson. It's less the system and more an ecosystem that exists only because of the interactions of all of our collective individual decisions. All this is to say, you have more power than you think to do the imaginative work of world building that Octavia Butler encourages us to do and to change the system, but more too. This is our final quote for the night. Rather, we're going to question the distinction between macro and micro, big and small, because all the great transformations that societies undergo rely on the low-key scheming of everyday people. Even now, behind each grand headline and pronouncement, we'll find individuals and groups who've decided to disrupt the status quo. Dr. Benjamin is truly one of my intellectual heroes. You should check out any of her work, including Race After Technology. They are both in my reading list. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.